Russia asserts that the noises claiming that its attitude to the crisis in Syria had changed are groundless, and Washington deviated from the contents of the Geneva statement. The Syrian Arab army units liquidate considerable numbers of terrorists and their leaders. Al-Halaqi discusses Syro-Iranian cooperation in the economic, trade and oil fields between Syria and Iran with Mr. Kazemi Kouroumi. Good afternoon, welcome to a news bulletin. I'm Dania. The UN agent responsible for human affairs visited Syria and discussed the mechanisms of cooperation between the Syrian government and the UN organizations with the Syrian Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Social Affairs and National Reconciliation.
Within the context of Syria's positive cooperation with the international effort to help the Syrian people to overcome the effects of terrorism, Foreign Minister Walid al-Muallim received Mrs. Valerie Amos, the UN official responsible for humanitarian affairs. The two sides expressed satisfaction with the agreement on the plan of Syrian response in the field of human affairs. Mr. al-Muallim called upon the UN to cooperate with Syria in reforming and rebuilding the infrastructure damaged by terrorist attacks. He asserted that the sanctions imposed by the US and the EU on the Syrian people are responsible for their suffering. He called for cancelling these unjust sanctions. The Minister of Social Affairs, Jassim Mohammed Zakaria, discussed with Mrs. Amos the mechanisms of cooperation in the area of human affairs and the efforts to bring aid to the harmed population. The Minister of National Reconciliation, Ali Haidar, told Mrs. Amos that Syria decided to bring aid to all Syrians without any exceptions. However, the terrorist groups continued to prevent aid from reaching certain areas. Mrs. Amos expressed high appreciation of the efforts of the Syrian government to facilitate the work of the UN office. She asserted that the office would continue to offer humanitarian assistance in coordination with the Syrian government.
The Russian President's special envoy to the Middle East, Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov, said Washington has deviated from the contents of the Geneva statement and is acting unilaterally, noting that all the fanfare aroused on a change in the Russian stance towards Syria was made up. He stressed that the fabricated fanfare aroused on statements reported in his name stems from a misunderstanding of the meaning of the ideas he discussed with a number of the Russian public chamber members. Bogdanov indicated that the discussions resolved around the developments of the situation on the ground in Syria and that the Russian Foreign Ministry is studying all the possibilities, including evacuating the Russian nationals from Syria. The Russian Deputy Foreign Minister continued as saying that he informed those asking about the situation, and the Syrian opposition says it holds sway over 60% of Syria's land and that the Turks speak about figures too. Bogdanov added that Moscow announced more than once, including statements of President Vladimir Putin, that it deals with the crisis in Syria on the basis of the Syrian people's interests. Iran's Foreign Minister Ali Akbar Salehi asserted that the actions of the West and some regional states in Syria are no more than a flagrant violation of all international norms, conventions and humanitarian values. He asserted that these countries were carrying out aggressive acts that could never be justified. He called attention to Iran's notification of this attitude to the UN and its envoy to Syria, Mr. Khadr al-Ibrahimi. This was within the context of six-point plan. Mr. Salehi said international norms were being violated in order to exert pressure on Syria, the independent country and founding member of the UN. These attempts were aimed to force Syria to change its policy against imperialism, occupation and unilateral attitudes. Mr. Salehi asserted that only the Syrian people have the legitimate right to determine the kind of system which should prevail in their country. He pointed out that Tehran continues to support and develop dialogue among the Syrians within the context of achieving national reconciliation. The Society of Journalists held a press conference in Antioch yesterday to denounce the practices of armed terrorist groups supported by Erdogan along the Syro-Turkish borders. The journalists asserted that the area has become a place of terrorism, threatening the sons of the two people in both Syria and Turkey. They pointed out that Erdogan's government was responsible for bringing terrorists to Arayhania and turning it into a training center. This was causing deep concern among the Turkish people in the neighborhood, who are already suffering from bad living conditions, while the terrorists have everything and smuggle goods from various countries without any inspection. They are behaving with complete freedom, and the Turkish people in this area are the real victims. Units of our valiant army confronted yesterday an attack by armed groups that shot gunfire from inside the Lebanese territories into the crossing of Al-Manad al-Dabbusiya and the border checkpoints at the Syrian side in Marbo and Ma'thumma in Tel Kalah, Homsia countryside. Our army units dealt direct blows to those terrorist groups, inflicting heavy injuries among them and forcing the rest to flee away into the Lebanese territories. With the cooperation of the residents of Barzi al-Balad area in Damascus, Syrian Arab Army engineering units dismantled a car bomb weighing nearly 1,000 kilograms of highly explosive material. The car was parked in a popular market there. The residents of the neighborhood condemned such criminal acts, pointing out that the aim behind that is to kill a large number of civilians. They affirmed that terrorism would never undermine their steadfastness in the face of the aggression targeting Syria. In Aleppo, Syrian army units killed a number of armed men in Handarat, the highway leading to the central prison of Aleppo. On the main Aleppo-Damascus highway, a Syrian army unit killed an armed man driving a van. The army unit also seized grenades, ammunition, explosive charges and documents inside the vehicle. Some of the documents were Turkish. The Minister of Education, Dr. Hazwan Al-Waz, asserted on the necessity of supporting the projects of the UNESCO in addition to the team of the National Committee also communicating with international organizations. During meeting with members of the National Committee for Education, Science and Culture, he indicated that the Ministry seeks to achieve the highest rate in school enrollment and provide means needed for applying the obligatory education. Dr. Al-Waz expressed his appreciation of the broad prospects of cooperation in the UNESCO in most fields. In his turn, the National Committee Secretary of the UNESCO, Dr. Nidal Hassan, showed a graphical representation of the National Committee's activities in the year 2005 till the year 2012, in addition to the events undertaken by the committee during the past 6 months and events which are to be held with the UNESCO. And now it's over to Vani with our economic news. For more information, you can visit our website, www.syriaonline.sy. God bless you. God bless Syria.